Hello everybody, so today I'm going to take you through some examples of some of my sketches and drawings in three different sketchbooks. And the first one I'm going to focus on is the large one here, and this is a Hammer Muley watercolour paper sketchbook where I do a lot of my representational illustration work. So I'm going to just go through it and talk about it as I go. So this book has, as I say, the watercolour paper, and as ever with my sketchbooks, I tend to put a quote on the first page, and this is because it sort of takes away from the intimidation of having a blank page. So this one is quite appropriate. Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass, it's about learning how to dance in the rain. Couldn't get more sort of appropriate than that at the present time. And then I'm just going to walk you through it. So this first double page spread here, I actually did this as part of a workshop I was doing in Manchester. So on this side of the paper, let me just move these books out of the way. On this side you see a colour first example, and this was a demonstration in the centre of Manchester, so you can see the high rises and so on. I tend to use a lot of text in my work, sometimes just titles, but often telling part of the story of the drawing. And these are typical of my sort of single line contour drawings where I'm just doing little thumbnails of different views, and you'll see these dotted through the book, and this is what we're going to do in another video when I show you how I go about that with contour drawing. Then these next few pages, I'll just flick through them really quickly, are just people drawing. It was part of the 1 week 100 people last year, so these are all, you know, different sort of people drawing sketches. This one is of interest because it was done as part of the, there was a plein air painting sort of forum really in Albert Square last year, and this is a drawing I did of people actually painting, and they were painting with easels and oils and all sorts of other paintings, and this is the town hall. So this is a typical colour first, and then you can see some more people sketches. This is one of my favourite places to go and draw. This is Victoria Baths in Manchester. So this is a double page spread, some of it colour first, some of it black and white, hope you can see that. And this was one of their weekends, and this is a spring fest, so there's music going on and all sorts of things. So it's great to be able to draw in those sorts of environments. Now we'll be doing it from either photos or from life that is obviously not out and about with groups of people. So this is colour first. You can see some of my black and whites with textures coming through. I'm very keen on drawing with textures, and we'll talk about that, and making different sorts of marks with the materials and pens that we're using. This again is more colour first, and I tend to mix the black and white with the colour because I think it kind of works quite well. This is Ashton Market. I currently have an exhibition in Ashton Market, and although you won't be able to necessarily go and view it in the market, although I think the market is open, but the point is to stay safe at home. You can view it on my website, in the gallery of my website, if you're interested. More Manchester. I think you're starting to get a flavour here for the types of things that I do. I often will do a double page spread about a particular theme, and this is a really good example of that. And this is cherry trees and cherries in blossom at this time of year actually, or just a bit later than this time of year because the cherries aren't out yet, but this was last year. So I kind of have divided the page into these sort of blocks. We'll talk about that as a way of approaching drawing. And then this is a view, this is a zoomed in part of the cherry blossom. The pink is the kind of thing that connects it all the way through all these different types of drawings, and then text in there explaining things. So this is quite a nice way of theming your work. This is actually more or less rooftops. So this is in Manchester. This was part of an urban sketch session in Sackville Gardens, and then this is locally to where I live in the hills. And again, using selective colour alongside colour first. So this is selective colour where I've just literally put some colour on, whereas this is the colours goes down first and then I put the line work over the top. This is something that I'm very fond of doing as well. A drawing with strong tonal values, and then lots of textural detail as well. And again, it's the darks and versus the lights that move you around the image. Or people. This is an example of a view across a scene, and I'm just using very limited colour palette, which is again something I quite enjoy doing. And so all of the green, and then you've got a building here, and it kind of creates this nice sort of contrast. And the darks, again, very important with my typical text. This was done in the pouring rain in Stoke-on-Trent, so you can see all of the effects that you get when you put your colour down and there's all the rain going onto it. It was great scenery and views along the canal side, but unfortunately the rain was awful. And it was an urban sketch meetup, really, a UK meetup in the summer, and so that's the sort of logo for it. And it was great to be around the pottery region, but unfortunately the rain stopped play. And so this is an inside view, all done in black and white again, with the way I use the sort of textures drawn in and patterns, which are quite a nice way of working with black and white, adds a lot of interest, and we will talk about that. And this is just plants in the house and so on. So you can create a kind of a cohesive whole that's all of the same subject, or you can just, you know, dot things around. There's no real rules. It's up to you how you sort of lay out your pages, but there are some kind of ideas that we can talk about. This is a double page spread with a real sort of sense of place about it. It was down at the Rochdale Canal in the centre of Manchester. So there's all these different views in the same place, and what that does is it kind of creates a real sort of understanding of what the place is like if you have a number of different views within the same environment that you're drawing in. And sometimes it works a lot better than just having one drawing. It gives you much more of a flavour of that sense of place. So these were just different angles on the Rochdale Canal, and this was another one still, and then you've got text here. This is on its side, but it's basically it's a cafe scene. The interesting thing about this cafe was that there were lots of plants all hanging up in the window, making a really interesting kind of view. And this was the sort of cup and saucer of my tea that I was sitting looking out of the window. The nice thing about this sort of approach is that you can draw very much in a sort of layered way. So you've got a foreground, a middle ground, and then a background, and that creates a real depth in the drawing. This is another scene of Manchester. Nothing much interesting there, although to say about that, that's just paint. There's no line work there, which is kind of unusual for me in a sketchbook. This is actually the Manchester International Festival, so it's a double page spread. I hope you can sort of see that there. The interesting thing here is that you can actually use different things to tie two drawings together. So these were two different angles within Albert Square during the festival. And I've used these tops of these tents here, these marquees I should say, have kind of acted as the kind of link between the two, and that can work quite well. So in the background on both drawings you can see the town hall, and then the people are the kind of thing that brings the whole thing alive, really. This is a colour first with only the colour added, and I need to go back to the scene. You can see from the splotches that it was starting to rain quite heavily, so I had to stop. So this is a kind of a typical what it looks like, and so oftentimes actually it looks a lot messier than this. I've been relatively careful with how I place the colour here, just because I didn't want to make too confusing a scene, but oftentimes I'm looser with the colour. So this was a scene in a streetscape with lots of planting, so hence these two blocks are the buildings, and this was all the planting around, and I need to go back or use a photo to kind of finish that off. Another townscape. This is a black and white of the Trafford Centre. Actually, it definitely won't look like that now. It's almost certainly closed, the Trafford Centre. But this is a sort of like the typical view through the Trafford Centre. We've got lots of people all milling around. The plastic planting that is so typical of the Trafford Centre, and then these sort of interesting stairways and architecture. This was Bury St Edmunds, where my hometown, and this was Ixworth House in the background with some interesting planting. I didn't have much time, so I did a quick colour first there. This is actually one of my favourite places in Manchester. This is Elizabeth Gaskill House, where I teach workshops in drawing and sketchbook drawing twice a year in the winter and in the summer. So these drawings were done in the summer. Beautiful garden around Gaskill House. So that's what this is. It's two different views. My favourite view of the house is actually from the rear of the house, because you get all of the red brick and the roundness of this bit jutting out at the house, and then this lovely sort of stairway and the beautiful planting. There's a quote here which is actually in the gardens: a whispering of leaves and a perfume of flowers, which I think is really nice. And so this is, as I say, Gaskill House. Both of those colour first. This is a quick sketch. I didn't have much time, and this was in Grasmere, but again, colour down quickly. I think it was starting to rain again, and then some line work over the top, and you don't actually have to add a lot of line work, and that's one of the beauties of doing colour first. And this is a drawing which doesn't actually have any pen work in it. This was done purely with colour, which was watercolour first and then coloured pencil over the top, and you can get quite a great depth of tone in those sorts types of drawings, so that's worth considering. Oh, this is Stop the Coup, so this is an interesting one, which is again a Manchester scene with signage. I'll often write in my drawings, and text here, dates and so on are all important parts of the scene. This is just a promotion I did actually for Active Souls, which is just a couple of shoes. Sometimes I'll do this type of a drawing where I literally pick and mix things, and it's a kind of an eclectic mix, and sometimes I redraw things in different ways. So this is in Stockport, and then I kind of redrew it just in pencil and just added some spots of ink. So this can be quite nice kind of eclectic mix of just different bits and pieces. This is planting, typical of my contour drawing approach that I love to do, and we will certainly get into some of that. And then more of People's March, and some of my greyhound Tansy, and she's lovely to draw, so that's that. There's a few more pages here, but what I want to do whilst I've got some time is, because I don't think we're doing anything more. Actually, I'll just go a couple more. This was actually Ellen Road Engine House, which is an interesting steam museum. So this is again the colour first with the line work over, showing how dramatic you can kind of make it with the colour and the line. This was Exchange Square in the winter. And then these last two that I'm going to share with you, this was Bury St Edmunds market at Christmas. And so the red being the poinsettias, and this was the poinsettia in my parents' living room. So this sketchbook isn't yet complete. I've only got a couple more pages to use in this book. But I just want to, in the last couple of minutes, I just want to show you some pages of some alternative sketchbooks. So this one is actually a collage sketchbook, so very different. And I've only just started this one. It's kind of something I intend to do daily or relatively, very regularly. And these are really simple, sort of relatively abstract pieces that are made up of pieces of paper, text, pattern, inks, and any other sort of mixed media I want to add, really. So I keep them fairly simple. And it's a really nice kind of freewheeling way of working. And it can be about anything. These ones I'm going to show you are all about spring, really. So this one's more about dandelions. This was from a newspaper, and I just picked it up with some sellotape, and I've stuck the sellotape over. This is the use of inks in here, and then text. This is pattern paper that I've created using a gel plate. This is some charcoal. This is just, sort of writing text. So they're just really sort of simple, freewheeling ideas, abstract, but about something, and these are about spring. Another one there. Another one there. That's my paper that I create. That's use of inks. Use of brown paper, pattern paper. The contrast is really nice. Some pencil, so you can see how kind of loose that they can be. So I'll leave that one there, and then finally I just wanted to briefly show you this one, which is wrong way around. A sea white. They're both of these small ones are sea whites. This is a sea white that's not a travel journal, and this one was a travel journal. And again, but not using collage this time, just simple drawings, line work. Some of them are continuous line contour. Some of them are limited palette. I'll just flick through them very quickly before the end. Yeah, so you can see the kind of variety of things that you can kind of create that can be quite simple. They don't have to be as literal. Some of them can just be shapes and lines. Anyway, hopefully you get an idea of the sketchbooks that I create, and we will be talking about different ways of drawing in the videos that I'm going to share with you subsequently. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you soon. Bye-bye.